barriers, and one of them is obviously access to finance. So that's something that we would like to tackle a little bit in the next sessions, and maybe some of the barriers. What kind of barriers are those guys are facing?
So apart from access to finance, we also recognize and acknowledge the barriers of institutional recognition, for example, for the existing sustainable businesses already in Cambodia, and also how to measure the social impact, which earlier in the first session we said that, okay, we can use the SDGs as a foundation to measure how sustainable businesses are actually doing well while doing good. So without further ado, let us introduce our new set of speakers for this session.
So I would like to welcome Ms. Lei Rachana, who is actually the chairwoman of the Sustainable Finance Committee at the Cambodian Bank Association. And then also would like to welcome your friend, Your Excellency, Kanchan Mental, Secretary of State of the Ministry of Post and Telecom. So we have more than 200 people watching us, so I think maybe someone has to take off the shirt to make it more popular. Anyway, so beginning there. So,
Yeah, thank you.
okay, so let me give a bit of kind of an intro for the next one. You know that, as Charles was mentioning earlier a little bit, is that when you have basically more than 60% of the population that are considered as young, and they all have 2 or 3 smartphones, depending on how many girlfriends you have, and they all want basically better services, better products right now. So there's a strong aspirations, strong demands from the young and from the youth, I guess. So that's gave us some kind of imperative in terms of addressing the aspirations of those young people, but also the fact that AI is coming. Whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, it's coming. So there will be less and less muscle-based employment. So therefore, how do we actually address these issues in getting more jobs, diversifying the industry to absorb basically this labor force? And as we also heard a little bit earlier, there's no scenario that the official development assistance will be sufficient to achieve the SDGs. You can turn it the way you want it, there's no scenario at all. So therefore, it is imperative that we actually bring private sector along and the private capital. Yeah? So that's the next session. So, and I have a quote. Remember the quote is earlier, so we have another quote. Yui, can you put the quote? It's coming, it's coming. Okay, so I have successfully privatized world peace. What else do you want? Who said that? It's not Gandhi. Somebody else. You get the pins at the end, Not me. No? Come on, guys, no? No? Okay, so let's give the answer, Yui. It's Tony Stark. Okay, Iron Man. Okay, he privatized world peace. So how do we actually now, if we rely on the private sector, should we just forward the SDGs agenda to the private sector and say, guys, do it yourself. You recruit the Avengers basically. And we have basically a good, Avengers team here with us. So that's what we're going to talk about, how we actually scale those businesses.
I like how you described us as the new Avengers. I think. Yeah, we can be the next Avengers.
We are the next Avengers. But I'm Captain America. Okay, so you know that there's a lot of money outside. Okay, there's a lot of impact fund. There's philanthropists. There's a bunch of new investment fund coming out. So every week there's a new fund popping up. So I think the most defining issue of our generations is how do we actually, bring this money, orient this money towards what is needed now and also what will be needed for the future of Cambodia. So that's that's the imperative basically for us as a generation. So I think that I would like to ask maybe Rachana, who is actually the chairwoman of this Sustainable Finance Committee, how and what the industry in Cambodia, the banking industry, the financial industry in Cambodia, are actually stepping in this field of responsible finance. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting us here. I'm Rachana speaking on behalf of the Bank Association of Cambodia. So regarding to how the bank doing responsible banking here in Cambodia, let's do some background few years later. The first session was talk a lot about SDG, and then we are banker. 3 years ago, we don't even know what is SDG. That is for real. Because business people, we tend to care so much about the business, and we try previously to let the environment to the environmental people. So we think that environment is the role of the government, the role of NGOs, not the business or private entity like us. But we don't know that what the banking sector have done many years. Mostly we talk about CSR. People try to link themselves to CSR in order to gain heart and sentiment from the stakeholder in order to doing their business. So it's the time that when we see that it's more than this. We see the difference between environment and economic, and we see that a lot of quotes around us telling us that when you care about money, but to see what is the most important between environment and economic. So they're asking us that you try to stop breathing and 5 minutes and then you count the money. Can you do that? So we see that actually the world has changed, and then many people have seen that this is the job of everybody to care about the environment. That's why the banking industry, they come together to introduce what we call the principle. We call Cambodian Sustainable Finance Principle, where we set a standard for 9 principles for all banking sector, for the member bank, 40. We have right now around 16 member bank as commercial bank, specialized bank, including the Cambodia Microfinance Association. So right now we have confirmed 48 bank and microfinance association agree to adopt this principle. And this principle, what will be the impact on the business to the society? So the first 3 principles, I would share you this kind of beautiful icon that we not copying from SDG, but actually trying to make it easy to remember for our member bank, for all the stakeholders who take part in this icon. So the first 3 years, we mainly focusing on the stakeholders, especially on the client and the supplier. So what we doing with this, we try to reassess, to care about the financing that we lending to. So for the borrower, for the customer, for the supplier that we doing business with, we try to protect the environment, the people, and the culture. And this is what is setting in the banking industry right now. The next 3 years that you see here, the icon here, is mainly focusing on the financial inclusion, financial innovation, and also about how we can impact on the society. And the last one mainly about the banking themselves, that they try to improve themselves regarding to the standard building capacity of themselves to build up the environment social. Also the second one, we talk about the footprint, the internal footprint, about the consumption, about the expense on related to the carbon emission. And then the last one about transparency and accountability. And these are the 9 principles that have been adopted since March 2019. And we right now in the state of implementation, providing the implementation tool to the member bank to put this, integrate this in their business.
This is an initiative that, we all have to applaud, because this is how we actually, this is how the industry is getting organized and in terms of giving standards to the banking sector. And I think that Cambodia, in that sense, is in a way ahead of all the countries in the regions in trying to get the banking sector much more responsible, and basically by setting up those standards. And we hope that obviously UNDP and all those development partners will assist you in terms of the implementation, because yes, standards is important. At the end of the day, how you implement that, right? So it's basically an issue of education, as we said. I mean, I think that it's important that we continue to educate actually the investors and the banking actors, because we know that some of those international investors, for example, have limited actually knowledge about the opportunities that Cambodia may offer in terms of sustainable business. Ganesh, for example, who is sitting in Malaysia, may not know exactly what are the opportunities in Cambodia. So he has to come and dig into the different opportunities. So there's a lot of basically education that we need to provide upfront to the industry. One thing that we also want to touch base, maybe from Chanminta, because most of those investors and banks always say the same thing. I have money, but there's no pipeline. Where are those projects? Where can I invest my money in Cambodia? So we know that the government under your leadership is pushing a lot in terms of fintech, in terms of startup, in terms of innovations. And I think that it's important that we also try to see where are those opportunities. Are we chasing after the unicorn, that grab, we were from Ashim earlier. So what does this Cambodian unicorn look like? Is it a dot with the O? What is that? So maybe Chanminta, you can actually talk more about the pipeline. How can we actually create that kind of pipeline here in Cambodia? Yeah, no.
How many, how long I put it's hard for the to respond to the whole and to specify the whole components to show that Cambodia has a lot of potentiality and opportunities. Firstly, when you are young and you are keen to learn, and a lot of you are so excited to build something, to create something, but you don't have any ecosystem to build it. And then what would you do? So 1 year I heard about, like Charles said, just grab a laptop, just have a copy on Amazon, and just learn it, right? And then to think about, I need to think further how we could catch the opportunities, in particular investors from outside. So for us, the government, the royal government of Cambodia, try to create the opportunities by looking at digital side. If you want to leapfrog, we are young, we are keen, we are hungry. If you want to leapfrog, is knowledge. Knowledge is the first stage you may need to earn, starting from that. Knowledge you can learn, you can earn from different contexts, different environments, from your family, from your friends, from schools, from your working place, from the university, or from networking environment. And then if you want to leapfrog faster, you have to use digital tools. Digital tools allow you to learn faster. But it depends as well. It depends on how you can catch up this knowledge via YouTube, via Facebook, or via other way. So we encourage, we encourage our young to innovate, to create, because with the innovation, with the creativity, you can create your own opportunities. That's why the NPTC, the Ministry of Posts and Telecommunications, are looking at this and are investing with underlying ministries. Ministry of Industry and Handicraft, Ministry of the Education, Ministry of Labour, Ministry of the Commerce, and Ministry of Economy and Finance. So we have been working together since a few years already to build a favorable ecosystem, to create opportunities to attract more investors, because Cambodia must be innovative, must be creative. First thing. Second thing about MSME. You want to be sustainable? It's good. How? I want to copy a business model of my neighbor and to just apply to open one for my house. You're gonna die. Sooner or later, you're gonna die. Actually, the concept of R&D has been in place in developing countries many years already, about 20, 30 years. And developing countries keep innovating and keep boosting oil. For our MSME, if you want to be competitive, if you want to be productive, please be innovative and creative. So, the young generation, they need to innovate. It's called tech startup. MSME, if you want to be more productive, you have to adopt digital solutions. You have to adopt digital. That's why we link up tech startup and MSME to work together. So young generation, when they look at the whole ecosystem that MSME investors, FDI, they look at the ecosystem that, okay, young generation, firstly, innovation, tech startup, MSME is very supportive, is very sustainable, FDI is coming. These are the four components you may look at. But to reach these components, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. Why? It's going to be hard. Firstly, I heard let me share with you first about digital infrastructure. We have been working out on digital infrastructure by boosting the whole country to be connected. The internet penetration right now, you may be surprised, but the internet penetration is actually 96%. So mostly, almost Cambodian population have the internet. Of course, there's like Lisa said, each person sometimes they have two phones, so 2 subscribers or 3 subscribers. So, but the effective, we're going to have the active subscribers. We're going to define it later. But at least 96% the internet penetration is here. So you have to use it effectively and properly. Not only Facebook, 10 hours a day. Not only YouTube, 6 hours a day. But use it for your own benefit, for your own future, to earn your knowledge. Second part, it is about policy regulation, of course. Actually, not only the PTC, but the MEF and SNEC, Supreme National Economic Council, just newly established the working group, which is called Long-Term Digital Economy Framework and Digital Government. So SNEC is conducting this policy research, and at the same time, we have some regulation also going to be added, like the incentive for MSME, incentive for tech startup. Actually, we are we are preparing the regulation on how we would register our tech startup. Tech startup, if you want to be scale up, you have to be registered. To be registered, the cost of doing business, you may know, right? The cost of doing business is still high. So we need to bring all the stakeholders on board and to facilitate how our tech startup could be registered legally. without any fee. Okay? So once they will be registered, they could get funding from outside. Some tech startups, they already register in Singapore, in Myanmar, and also in Vietnam. Why? In Singapore, because they need funding. Third point is about skill. I heard earlier about someone asking about skill gap. Actually, we are working on this, skill orientation, major orientation, because we established one regulation which is called Capacity Building, Research and Development Fund. This is the first fund contributed by telecom operators. It is the first fund which is, organized, which is whose scheme is under PPP, Public-Private Partnership. So telco contribute to this fund to develop human resources, to build a capacity, to build environment, infrastructure, young talent, and oil. So actually we are working on digital skill assessment. We don't know exactly, even myself, I don't know, but we only know that based on the data we got from the Ministry of Education, only almost 10% of our students graduate from university, and they choose the ICT, They choose the ICT only almost 10%. It just means like we are in a shortage, not only the degree, bachelor degree, but also the skill it may need. So if you want to respond to the market, earlier we talked about young innovation, MSME, FDI. Where are those skills? Where are those skills? So we need to prepare this assessment, this study first, and we are going to talk about the major orientation, skill orientation, and the teacher. We talk about teacher, ICT teacher penetration. We still have, we still in a shortage of teacher too. So we have to work with the Ministry of Education. 5th October, the theme of the 5th October is the Teacher Day. It's about digital teacher. So we have to move forward, to digital teacher. So how are we going to improve the ICT teacher penetration? So a lot of components we have to, build, to develop. Government alone, stakeholders alone, we cannot work. That's why we prepare the digital skill assessment, asking help from UNDP. Without their help, we can do also. And then, because we have CDL department. So we engage UNDP, we engage GIZ, we engage other stakeholders like Young Entrepreneur Association, WEAC, CDOI, Open Institute. So we NEA, National Employment Agency also. So we engage those stakeholders to be working with us on digital skill assessment. You guys are going to see this. Even myself, I don't know what it's going to be. And we have conducted already the Cambodia textile report. It's kind of, if you want to sell, if you want to attract investors, you can, present this report. You can see what is the ecosystem of textile in Cambodia. So we have conducted, and we just finished. I think we have officially launched during Digital Cambodia in March this year. So these are components I would like to say, and the fourth point is about, of course, money, investment. So we're going to build 4 big pillars. We're going to have, a big vision of it, and we have a pillar to support. Funding from the government, funding from the private sector. Of course, you cannot rely on UN agency, because I think they don't have money too. Yes, less money. So it just means like we have to bring everyone on board to build, to build Cambodia being more attractive for getting fund from outside.
You know what's very interesting? Just hearing from Rachana and also Excellency, there is a common objective. It's really looking and understanding what the niche is. What are the needs of the people? What is the market asking from the government and also the private sector? And I think also one of the things that we can bring into the table is also understanding the role of women in business, right? And I think this would be specifically for you, Ms. Rita, because you wrote a book. If we can just share with our audience.
Zoom in. You can find it in Monument Books. That's okay.
So this is called Leading Ladies: How to Start a Business and Be Your Own Hero. Maybe you can tell us more about what this book is and what were you thinking? What were your inspirations in writing?
I can share this my first book, and I also get inspired from this book as well. When I read it again and again, I feel like I can do it. I can say I am a speaker with many conference or seminars already, so I think I have my little experience with like multi-business. So, and I found that for young generation, they want to learn more. Some people they want to start a business, but they don't know at all about the meaning of the being CEO. I mean, like not everyone can be CEO. Yes, if you have money, but it doesn't mean that your business can be sustainable. So it's the point. And I work with many young women, and Be Your Own Hero is also name of my mentoring program. I also create one program that focuses on young women that they are like potential, or they want to learn more about leadership skill, about decision making or public speaking. So I found that from they want to be, sometimes they want to be like me, and actually I want them to be like me or like other one. I mean that in general they should be the one, and they should be proud of themselves and be their own hero. So this book, there are two main content. One about startup. When I talk about startup, I think everyone can go to Google and also can learn by themselves as well. And another one is about Be Your Own Hero, but I want them to understand more about their need and what they should do for themselves. Don't forget about themselves, etc. So I can say a lot of content that I provide to, I put in the book, mostly is about my real experience. Like for 10 years, I tell them about experience, what I felt, what I experienced, and what I perceive, and I am today. So I just want, and I think it's not like much, but I can say that I got feedback from young generation. They really happy to read it, and they are looking for my readers. Yeah, so I hope, and they also wish to have more books to read as well.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's, listening to John and John and also to Rachana earlier is about, creating this ecosystem and also maturing the market, I think, from a finance point of view. We all know that investing in women's business makes not only commercial sense, but it has so many ripple effects that it's always difficult actually to measure them, because it goes to communities, it goes to children, it goes to changing the mindset of people. And I think that's how do we actually now try to twist a little bit the different financial instruments that the banks are providing, that the impact investors are providing, or the FIs, the development financial institutions, like IFC and others. How could we actually twist a little bit those instruments to fit with the needs of those young, startup and others, but particularly to the women business. That's something that's maybe Rachana, you can talk more about how the bank industry in Cambodia is trying to actually respond to that need.
Yeah, I think everybody hear about the financial inclusion. How we gonna provide access to unbanked people or the community where they find very difficult to go to the bank to access funding. So you see a lot of banks in Cambodia right now moving to digital. They call themselves digital bank. What does it mean by digital bank? It means that they try to bring every banking service through the mobile app that everybody can access. So right now you don't talk anymore about going to the laptop, access the banking service through the internet banking or the web based. Everybody feel very convenient to access with the mobile app. So this is, you see the trend that every bank right now they try to develop their mobile app so that people can access it. And why this is the thing that disrupt the banking sector, because compared to one bank A that you ask the customer like women entrepreneur to after they finish they done their business during the day, collect the money and deposit the money to the bank. Right now there's many ways, many options that the women entrepreneur they don't need to travel to the bank, to the branch to access the banking service. They can do everything on the app. They can transfer the money to their supplier. They can get the payment from their customer. So they can do the balance, they can check everything, they can even use the QR code that you see in every merchant. Some merchant they already use the QR code to pay even the Amazon coffee. You can just do the scanning, that much easier. You know, all convenience things are all in the mobile app. And this is one thing that brings the banking service to the door of the customer. Another thing we talk is about the financial innovation. So everybody talk about digitalization, but don't forget that they try to innovate everything that for banking service to be more smarter, to be more convenient. And this is the way that you can see the trend in the globally. Even you want to access loan, you can go online, apply application, just apply your loan online from the mobile app. Few minutes later, the gate officer will contact the bank. Or probably some bank, they can also proceed to some inquiry basis that collect the due diligence from the customer so that they can read for doing the primary assessment that the customer will be eligible to borrow such a money or not. So you can try it your own way to do on the mobile app. And this is really the thing that I think the world has changed a lot.
Excellent. Thank you, Raj. And I think maybe I can return to Sunari, maybe in Ganesh as well, because when we talk about ecosystem development and creating this the critical mass, I guess, of startup and companies, system companies, in order to attract those investments. Because indeed, I mean, Ganesh, maybe you can actually talk about that, because as an investor, do you actually adapt some of your instruments, for example, to respond to the needs of this nascent actually ecosystem in Cambodia? How do you do that?
I think first of all, I think Cambodia, I think we feel Cambodia is much more stable compared to neighboring countries. Why? I think there's more structure going into the government. So we feel Cambodia, is going to lead this part of the region. And so for us, when we came in, people asked, why are you not going to the neighboring countries? Because as an investment fund holder, we feel it's a bit risky too, and the government is also a bit shaky. But Cambodia, when we came on board and we saw, wow, there is this, like what Charles was saying, there's this group of people who are dreamers in Cambodia. And what is exciting to see is the government is also supportive of the youth. So you have certain governments who still want to be in their old ways and not see people. But you see in Cambodia, the top leadership are also young people. So you don't have really people in the 70s or 60s coming and tell, you have to do the old way it is. But it's important that the government is accepting change, then says, hey, the world is moving towards digital, and it's time for us to also change. So that's quite interesting. But for Cambodia, we feel like I was also speaking to a friend this afternoon. it's also interesting to see how Cambodia's solutions can be replicated to the neighboring countries. So that's where we see, because Cambodia is 19 million people. 60. So 60 million people population, and for a fund for us to look at, it's a very small market, but if the solution is built for throughout the region, then the business can also expand. So that's where we look as an investment fund. Okay, once you're done with 16 million people, and with digital age now, it takes you like probably 2 years to reach out to 16 million people. But what's next? So that's crucial to us also.
So maybe Sudani, we can actually, how do you actually, from the whether from the UN or from the experience, because investors discover in Cambodia, there's a lot of opportunities, but how do we actually can drive or help them to orient them towards where are those business opportunities that are linked to the SDGs?
Yes, indeed, it is a tricky question. I think, firstly, I would just like to say that everyone knows development assistance is dwindling globally, both from multilaterals and bilaterals. But I see it as not necessarily a bad thing, because there are many countries now that are choosing to move away from development assistance and to rely on themselves to get to that next level of development. Moving away from dependency and that psyche of dependency that also sometimes has caught up even at the community level, where everyone sort of is depending on a handout. So I think UNDP also globally, we realize that the type of assistance we bring to countries has to be very different. So we move from the traditional donor kind of model to actually trying to facilitate the bringing in of South-South triangular cooperation, comparative, good practice from other countries and regions, which may not be able to be replicated here, but at least from which countries can learn in terms of, trying out different models that would maybe work in this particular context. And I think also we are moving more towards trying to design or support the design of projects that are less about being sort of normative, prescriptive frameworks for development, but really trying to rely on the context-specific needs of communities, so that development solutions can be tailored to those specific contexts and needs and challenges on the ground. Because the one for all kind of approach to development, the standard menu of development solutions is just not working. So I think we have realized this, and we have really tried to change our approach accordingly. And we also have tried to be a facilitator between government and the private sector, as well as civil society, which represents the voice, the needs on the ground of people, as well as academia, other kinds of institutions that can actually come together to collaboratively identify solutions that can meet needs on the ground. So we see ourselves more as facilitators, as, if you like, almost brokers of development solutions going forward. So, and then in terms of the financing framework, I think we are experimenting in many countries in collaboration with governments, as well as private sector, investors, foreign investors, to look at alternative financing models for development. Some countries are experimenting with social impact funds, others with SDG platforms, others with blended finance options. So it's very much also a testing field at the moment, very frankly. We don't know whether what we're doing is actually going to work. I think, but that's the case with many of us in the room here, because also the society and globally everything is evolving so fast.
So we have to keep adapting as we go. In a way, we have to take on the traits of a business. So, so yes, I mean, I think that's where we stand, and we rely a lot on that collaborative approach to approaching, to address the stubborn development problems.
I think that's, there's something happening, from the UNDP point of view, for example. There's this new culture, it's like basically just do it. That's just do it slogan.
Well, we don't use that because there's a
not-
copyright issue.
But I think that's I guess the spirit is just try it. It doesn't actually. It's worth a try. So that's also comes from trying to all those new financial instruments. As you mentioned, blended finance and development impact bonds and other things. So that's something that Cambodia might be actually ready to experiment, and that's something that we also want to get some feedback from the audience as well, whether actually those instruments will actually be relevant for building this ecosystem. And talking about this ecosystem, maybe Charles, I can point to you because I think there's a need to invest more at the upstream level. Basically, how do we structure those projects or those business, making them basically investment ready? So I think that through your initiative of the cluster park, will you actually address that issues of let's go upstream a little bit, making sure that we actually can support those business to be much more robust and investment ready.
Finally, okay.
Yeah, I gave you 2 minutes.
I'm going to break the formality a little bit. Sorry,
Yeah.
no offense. I was going crazy down here. Okay, we're talking about financing and building platforms and developing and things like that. We're talking about institutions, working with government, coming up with solutions. You're forgetting about the private sector. Okay, work with the private sector. Believe it or not, I've got to keep my job. Right? If there's a problem, I have to find a solution and not lose money. And I don't have 3 years to do it or 5 years to do it. Right? So let the private sector take the lead in some cases. Right? I think we've done that. I want to come back to the issue about finding knowledge, accessing knowledge, developing knowledge. Well, on our cluster project, and this relates to getting SMEs to be ready. Okay? So how are we dealing with the issue of skilling and knowledge? Well, I talked earlier in the day about an e-learning platform, right? We're investing in that. We're building it, right? We're engaging other members of the private sector, meaning course providers, to do it. I'm engaging the Germans. 2.5 years ago, I signed an MOU with a group from Bavaria, related, and also, that group is the Technical University of Munich. I know they have the skills, they have the platforms, they have them now. I need those. Cambodia needs those. So I went out and I bought them. Today, other sources. Today, 5, 6, 7,000 young Cambodians are now working in Korea, Japan, Taiwan, China, in high-tech factories, high-tech applications. I just came back from Korea about a month ago. The Ministry of Labor asked us to go, National Employment asked us to go, National Employment Agency. Well, we had a great session with those kids. They are all eager, they've learned skills that are amazing. Some of the R&D, some of the students in universities blow your mind. They're absolutely fantastic. And they've got these great skills. They come back to Cambodia, no opportunity. We talked about the cluster and how it works. And we had more than an hour and a half of discussion afterwards. Them asking questions. Right? How does it work? When, where? Can I work at home? Yes, yes. So the eagerness, that entrepreneurial spirit is there. Right? And we'll say it's a resource. It's, let's say, another one of the latent resources. We got 7,000 skilled technicians. FBI, you want to come into Cambodia and build a factory or do manufacturing, and you want to do it using your systems, which are digitally advanced or Industry 4.0, the first thing you need is technicians. How much does it cost you to send a technician to Cambodia to live there for the next 2 years? Immense amounts. You need a local. You need a local supply chain, right? Right now, that supply chain, or those 5,000, 6,000 kids, not very many people know about. They're here. They're in Korea right now, but I will get them here. So I solved that problem. So Cambodia investor ready. Yes, we can build the framework or a pool of technicians. Right? Other things that can be done, and we've started. This is just a small one for SMEs, right? Foreign employee quota removal, change it, right? Don't restrict the number of foreigners. Whether you're not looking for foreign workers, you're looking for foreign technical expertise. Don't restrict how many foreigners you can bring in. You get a young Jap who graduate from University of Munich, right? He's got good skills, maybe 1 or 2 years of experience. Hey, he or she, they're still free and wild. 2, 3, 4 years in Cambodia. I'm there. I mean, I was one of those 30 years ago. I went to Japan and stayed for 17 years. But that type, and through organizations, GIZ, UNDPs, this is easily organized. And it doesn't cost anything, essentially. Okay, we can start looking at apprenticeship programs. Okay, this is something the Germans are very good at. All right. FBI. Look at FBI itself. Right? This is basically, or one of the concepts of the cluster. Right? Rather than FDI coming in, building a factory. Right? As I said this before, is FDI provide us with what standards, what are your requirements? Share your expertise. Right? Share a technician for a little bit to train up the SME. Right? Transfer that knowledge. Right? And FDI will do that, because they benefit in many ways in the end. And the last is, I would say, kind of related to FDI, but foreign SMEs. Right? There's a huge base of foreign SMEs who would like to have partnerships or can have partnerships here in Cambodia, but there's barriers. For example, QIP. You got to be that big. Why don't we have a QSIP, Qualified Small Investment Project? In March we went to Japan with CDC, His Excellency Sochenda. We spoke to 460 Japanese SMEs. And we all know the state of Japan. Hope there's no Japanese in here. But they do know they. The situation in Japan, family businesses, SMEs in Japan, it's in decline. The next generation of that family business is in jeopardy right now. So, what if that Japanese SME partners with Cambodian SME, who is a family business with a young family, and there's another generation. So that's another approach that we're taking to, I'll say, make Cambodia investment ready and make it attractive. And like I said way back at the beginning, these are a bunch of natural assets that only Cambodia has. And that's just a point about regional dissemination. It's perfect. That's what we can do.
Thank you, Charles. I think that's, let me get you to jump quickly, but just, because I want also to draw the discussion towards that the government is doing a lot of efforts in trying to build the ecosystem. The financing sector is getting in order by adopting certain standards. Okay, so there's a lot of efforts happening in the country. But I want to go down a little bit to, there's some SMEs, some business people in the room, is that sometimes we try to twist the arms of those businesses, to comply with certain due diligence, certain criteria that are quite difficult when to basically meet them. So So we spend a lot of time to try to twist their arms. So I want to throw this idea because it's, instead of trying to make their brown eyes blue, there's a song. Don't make my brown eyes blue. So how do we actually then twist the other side of the equations, from the finance point of view, to basically identify those opportunities? Because you have loans, is one instrument that we mainly use in Cambodia. But what about equity? What about mezzanine debt or whatever, all those type of instruments? Or how can we blend the different instruments to actually fit better the needs of those companies here? Maybe Rachana or Ganesh, you can jump in.
I think we have many good examples of projects that done by many banks in Cambodia. So whenever they try to apply and think about the sustainability, they talk about environment, they talk about the social, they talk about the governance. So this would be give them a credit. Those banks can be eligible to access to the international funding from international organization, social lender, or any offshore lender that they take care mostly on the sustainability. From that point of view, what the opportunity of those banks they could have. They can access to lower cost fund, where you see that most of those funds they give us very low rate, what the LIBOR rate, LIBOR rate right now is 1%, 2%. And then compared to the cost of fund that we mobilize from the depositor in the country, you see the deposit rate right now in the market is around 5%. So you see from French bank probably 6 or 7, microfinance go to 8 or 9%. This is only the cost of fund for commercial bank, for bank. It's like a raw material that you already got very high interest rate from, very high cost from the local depositor. So the opportunity that every bank try to transform themselves to focus on to care about sustainability, to care about sustainable development. That would give them the opportunity to access those funds. And when you get those funds at a very cheap cost, cheap pricing, we also can lend to the SME, to the entrepreneur at also very good pricing. That makes the market very competitive. And the beneficiary would be, of course, the SME, the entrepreneur who access this fund.
Yeah. Okay. So if you want to get a good discount, go to Rachana.
Yes.
Ganesh, yeah.
I think for us, the measure of how we evaluate a company, our sister company is also a bank, established in a few countries. Hong Leong Bank is our sister company. And we also have a sister company that does construction houses. So when we see a particular business, we use multiple mechanisms to evaluate. So we have invested in a milk business, which a father and son who doesn't even know how to use the computer, but has close to about 8,000 cows in Malaysia. They sell their milk to Singapore, and on a daily basis, after the profit that they make is close to about $40,000 every day. So those are the businesses that we look at. Sometimes we look at businesses, come up with your business plan. What is your impact? Those are the mechanism we use. So some businesses we make special considerations. We go in and we say, hey, how much are you making? This is the entire business. And if I ask that, have you known, how to build a business plan? And they say, I don't know, but I know how to rear cows and get milk out of them. So those are the businesses.
Very difficult.
So those are the businesses that we go into and invest. So it doesn't matter. So we have hybrid. So sometimes we look at the social impact. Some businesses we go in purely commercial. We look at finance. Okay, let's say we are at the moment we are funding a project to build a 100-acre theme park. It's indirectly what we did was we are allocating 5 acres of the land to build a children hospital within the theme park. So children with cancer and all those can get treatment at the same time. It doesn't feel like a hospital. It feels like they're going to a theme park. So those are some of the projects that we look at and fund also. So I would say, in terms of company, we fund any aspect of business that that is legal, that the government says, it's okay to do such businesses. Apart from that, I think we look at the finance, the impact, and then how inclusive is the entire business. So I think the problem is sometimes, when the founder goes away or the founder decides to leave the business, the entire business crumbles down. So we also look into a good business where the succession, rather than saying, if I'm dead, then nobody can continue this business, but there's also how you train, if there's no children who wants to take up the business. With Malaysia, we see some of heritage businesses where we see plantations and all those agricultural businesses where children don't want to do agricultural businesses. But we, tell them that you can train other people. You don't have to always pass on to your children. So those are the some of the businesses that we looked at.
Thank you very much. I think because from the first session we had 2 questions that we're looking into how do we access this financing schemes, because as we've established in this session that there are available financial support. It's just how do we access that? Who do we go to? So do we have any questions from our audience and also from online about this session?
It could be in Khmer as well,
Yeah.
We don't have translation. I don't speak Khmer, but I'm sure that some we can translate. Any question from the audience about how we conduct decisions, and also some burning questions that you may have in the audience and also online. Don't be shy, yeah.
Thursday evening, it's Friday.
Hello again. My name is Nasimi Duma. So earlier I asked kind of broadly about what were the incentives and disincentives for different actors to incorporate sustainability into their work, whether that was diligence, sourcing, etc. Ms. Chana, you had mentioned kind of the work that you've done with the association. Because I'm interested, this is the whole panel to follow up on based on your different affiliations. But I'd like to know more specifically about what the Bank Association has done, not just kind of working on implementing these new principles at a strategic level, but even what was the thinking about working with consumers, with vendors to kind of create a value chain around educating people about sustainability and actually encouraging people to invest in it. This could be high net worth clients, SME clients, etc.
Thank you. Yeah, maybe any other burning questions that you want from the audience? Yes. Well,
I was very interested in Charles' comment actually, because he talked about QIPs and QSIPs. And I think that's really important because there's a lot of companies or ideas that are starting to bloom here, but it doesn't fit in QIPs and it's still starting. So you're at this unique point where it's really innovative, it's got the right ideas, but you're facing barriers right now because there's certain protocols or procedures or regulations which limits us from moving forward or going forward as quickly, where we have to probably take, let's say, a year to have these protocols finished. So if there's a special window where there will be QSIPs, for example, I think this would push a lot of these emerging companies that have innovative ideas, and it would help us, push us a lot more quickly and push us forward. So if you guys could expand on that, I think that'd be very interesting for us.
okay, maybe we'll at first and then Charles.
Thank you for the question. I think the principle itself is not just about putting in the paper 9 icon and then let it be. So what the Banking Association doing right now is trying to put a tool to try to integrate this in the every bank so that they can take part what we call it using this sustainable finance principle to integrate to their risk management system. So from that, looking from the customer perspective, as the SME or entrepreneur, what you will directly impact from this principle is that whenever you come to the bank to request funding, so there will be a risk assessment reassessment on the environment, whether your business has any impact, negative impact to your business or not. Talking about the air pollution, you have any impact to the climate change, you have any impact to your waste management. So all these things is already written in our policy. Second thing, when you access to financing, they will also asking you whether you have any impact, negative impact to the social society. Talking about the local community, that you use the fund to harm or to build a negative impact on the local community, any issue on the human rights, any issue on the child labor force, or any related to the we talk about the employee rights, where you already treat your employee well enough or not. So this is a part that would be given in the adverse media, that probably a part of due diligence when the bank access when they try to process on the due diligence to your business. The third thing also impact to your SME or entrepreneur is about the cultural protection. So we care about the culture, we care about heritage, whether you have any negative impact to the language, Khmer language, that's one of the unique things we need to preserve. Any impact to the ancient temple, any impact to the cultural, to the tradition of our culture. So all these things will be put into what we have a tool to screen whether you have this kind of issue or not. After this, you can proceed further. So this kind of principle will be take part as decision making in the process of approving loan to the SME or entrepreneur. And from the vendor perspective, as the bank, we also doing business. We also working with vendor or supplier to probably we buy stationery, we ask the subcontractor to build the brand, to build the building. So this also, they are the vendor, they are the supplier, they also need to comply our standard. I take one example that if the subcontractor that they don't have enough rule for safety of their worker, that would also harm to the society. That would be also a criteria for the bank to think about that before you allow them, you give the bid, you give the contract, you give the service to them. You have to screen whether they are compliant to the environment and social issue. So this would be directly impact to the society. And you know that the banker have very strong or significant influence in the society, because we the one who lend the money to you. So we have to be very responsible lender. We the one who invest in your business. So we must be responsible investor.
Very strong message. Charles.
Well, at least the investment law is being revised, and along with the SEZ law, because I've run or been involved with SEZs for the last 5 years, and I hate talking to foreign investors and what incentives does Cambodia offer, and say this, and this, and they say, okay, I'll go to Vietnam. See you later. So that happens consistently. So, but we're in a stage now where we have to attract that FDI, right? And we have to look at different ways of attracting that FDI. And rather than going through, say, a traditional QIP program, we need to change what the ecosystem, what's available in Cambodia. Not change the policy, what incentives we offer, change what's here. That's the approach I'm taking. In order to change what's here, the benefits that an FDI entity may receive, put that with the assets or the SMEs here. Come up with the QSIP program, which follows the same idea. Import duties or customs duties and VAT exemptions on imported raw materials, production equipment, construction equipment. That's what the SME needs. Don't make it $500,000 or $1 million. Make it $25,000. Then an SME, a local SME, can invest in that. Can buy new equipment from overseas, can buy second-hand equipment from overseas. We talked earlier about an SME partnering with a Japanese SME. The Japanese SME has old equipment. Bring it to Cambodia. Right? Make it reasonable, make it accessible. So a QSIP also needs to start looking at, or maybe this is different policy, we also need to start looking at infrastructure. Okay? Access to infrastructure. Right? So, in an SEZ, yes, off-peak hour rates will become available. It's 12.6 cents, whatever, in large industrial parks or other industrial parks. Well, we need to include that in SME clusters or SE zone, SEZ or SME zones, right? That needs to happen. So SMEs need to be granted the same access to those off-peak hour rates. And I'll say this is one for UNDP to take up, and if you haven't already, is we need to have a talk with EDC. Okay? If I want to use solar power and I have to pay a $10,000 megawatt capacity charge just because I want to have solar, yeah, scratch your head on that one. We need to change that. And lastly, with I want to say the Ministry of Economy and Finance has released a number of quote SME incentives, okay, tax deductions on use of technology, investment in equipment. Those need to be, well, first, SMEs need to be educated. Yeah, and the tax incentive is great, but if I don't understand how to apply for it, how it's applied, what it means to me, right? They're not going to apply for it, right? I think we all know Cambodian SMEs, if it's not right there, okay. But so educating, all right, is a critical piece of all this. Yeah.
Good.
I'll pass my two.
We're gonna go around another round, but Paul, do you have any other questions from the in Khmer? I want to hear some questions in Khmer. Yeah, help me to improve my Khmer as well. Oh, is there a question?
Yeah, my lady here.
Yeah.
Great. Are you going to translate?
Yeah.
What's all translate?
Yeah, this all will translate.
Hello. Good afternoon everyone. Nhưng xong vậy khai tại sao nhưng express English thì hành minister nhưng trong dịch phái hay nhưng trong express ở kho đấy mà dương ở sập nên chỉ biết trong quan dương xảy đến tràn cái này dương dịch phái này tràn nó bắt ở nhưng trong xưa tam pi first section á tam pi quanมีสติ๊กเกอร์ยังแหนว่าเป็นquanการพูดกับเราใช่ไหมเนี่ยhay không đứng ở bên đấy không sắp nhưng phải chất là sao ở Campuchia dân ở từ và thì đấy là dân cực kỳ SDG, GPCSO chẳng nên tha chia vậy mới để tha cái dân upgrade lại này thì o cho mình cái dân biết thực bị đọc sang một đấy chẳng phải chất bên đấy không sắp hay nhưng mà hiện thì hay thì mình sẽ ở Campuchia mà tờ ban nào và đây là sao thì hôm qua tờ ở xử lý tới chẳng ở mọi invitation các bạn nhiều chứ mỗi lần nhiều mai thì bạn ăn mình sắp nấu chởn để đơn thì mình lại đi chi lắm chứ không nghèo đóng sự bái hay được thường vàng là sao Campuchia dân là lớn thì từ lại người để tha một loạt trên vốn này dân cơ bị khai đây đang ở environment trở nên mừng chứ ở vậy đây nhưng trong xuân trên đấy tha ở tại tìm mới để đơn transportation này sao dân linh thì mới đã đi chí thì mới đang ở hay tha ở như cũng đã họ chạy xanh thôi thì mới khai chơi dân chẳng là họ khai với mình tập giống để chơi này đâu khó nó có thể là mình tập driver này tập trong này thay đi trên mình được khai mới bắt tay khỏi mấy mà đâu có nên đừng ấy là tập tay cho nó cho mình pass up mình làm đầu tiên hay trong những khơi như development hay những khơi về những gì mà tôi đang thấy ở đó vẽ những khơi tham sao trong này thanh mà đang đần nạp đi tập quá nhưng nghe ở đó ha qua chiếc ở đó qua mình tập trang tiên để lấy tiền giống như mà đang tha qua mình lưỡi càng đang của sang có được tiền qua ai ở sinh bàn chắc chắn mình có tha tìm mua là vậy những sơ nó cứ tha đây là dự apply muối được còn các ta business sustainability nữa nhưng cho là dự kết tha ta bây giờ dự apply nên mát ta dự nghe đu nó ham đấy không là dự cụ apply của người muốn là cụ ta họ dự chặt sái những tha dự kết tha ở bên chia chân dự còn đẹp tốc đại với nó còn ai tên nhiều pass up rồi còn ai xem tiền có tay dự khơi tha ta ở pass up nó lại này hay có tốc này hay còn ở ban nuôi Việt Nam có tin là bỏ trong đúng chứ anh ấy tin muối cái kia vậy nên còn sớm hay ở bên nhóm những cái tộc ở trong tôi mà đó nhưng mà cái pass up cái em đây là sao còn 2 từ sau đó trong meta club đôi trở thành tên như kia vậy đấy nhưng mà còn sớm muối hai muối tiết ở sông tôi chạy anh chờ thì muối tiết nhưng sự cây khơi ở khang việc mất quan dưới trời để tôi đang SME để tôi ra ăn bột cho nó hay nhưng khơi tha ở nó sập phai chứ nhưng miền ở micro trở thành tên micro business เหมือน micro finance เนี่ย micro business จ้าเหมือนแต่ให้เป็นกระทาเอาไว้แต่ความพื้นคือเป็นพลาสติกให้นักเรียนการปกครองสำหรับในนักเรียนกระทาตาเอาไว้แล้วแต่ยังอาจจะปรับที่ถึงเทียนคนยังเติมเหมือนด้วยอะไรหันของมันนะคะยังสเต็ปค่ะอันเดอร์ติ้งว่ายังเธอยังจ้างบางจุดใจที่ให้ต้องไปจุดใจจุดไม่ก่อนจุดไม่ก็ต้องหลบแบบเลยเตี้ยพี่บุ๋มท่าเป๊กนะยังมาหลอกเนาะมันได้ยังจ้างไอ้ท่าตาไอ้ตัวเราจุดไม่ยังไอ้ practice ไอ้จับด้านให้นั่นเลยก็ได้ถึงเต็มคืนอุ้ยต้องมือถือนึกว่าตnào mà thế mình qua căn đo mà nhận tất đã sai qua trong đo vậy cho nó cái thành là sao của ta chứ.
Let me try to translate it. I think that
sorry, so I just want to make sure that when we start to do project or we run the business, when we start to think about some project that we apply some do not have activity, something like that. And another one, this question may go to Mr. Chan, because he talked a lot about SME. And then no, sorry, you say a lot about the SME in another country. And I just want to find out that how can we apply some practice like a CSO or SDG in Cambodia, because it's just like something that you can start from the beginning. Because I think from people who work with the company or NGO, they know a lot about it. But for the micro business in Cambodia, I don't know if they come here to join the meeting or not. But I think that how can we promote this activity, like how to keep garbage or how to reuse the plastic in their business, something like that. Thank you.
Forgive me if I understand the question correctly. That's about CSR utilizing SDGs, right? Okay, including that to business, right? Okay. Well, way back at the beginning of the session, we talked about, let's say, the SDGs. To us are, we don't need to call them SDGs. They're just good, common sense business. So it makes sense to use socially and environmentally friendly let's say, initiatives or strategies in a business, whether it be World Bridge or whether it be an SME. Right? And understanding what they are and what are the advantage of that, sometimes it's very easy. Yes, solar power is less expensive than grid power. Right? That's environmentally friendly, etc. Integrating that, I want to say, you don't have to set out with a conscious effort to do that. Just let the numbers talk to you. They'll answer the question. But access and understanding what those SDGs are and what they're about and the benefits that they bring is very important. Now, on the opposite side of that, which is, especially for an SME or even a micro enterprise, we talked about this earlier about we'll say the initial investment. Okay, sometimes it's a monetary investment, sometimes it's, I would say, taking a risk for a later reward. So that understanding is very important. We talked about, say, financial literacy, investment literacy, right? That's part of that discussion, right? So, you talk to an SME or most SMEs today, pay $1,000 now, right? And you'll make, in 10 years, you'll be making $10,000, right? Or adopt an SDG strategy, whatever, and you need to pay $5,000 now, but in 10 years you'll be making $50,000. Probably 9 times out of 10, the Cambodian SME, or say many SMEs, is going to say, "Oh, I'll pay $1,000 now," right? And that's the strategy they'll take. So that education needs to happen.
Okay, Sean.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we have to sharpen the room because it's running out of time. But I think that's Rachana maybe.
And I just like to add one more thing on regarding to this one. Actually, what you asked me about here is about how the micro business they can get knowledge enough to know that what business they should do to harm the environment money or not. Actually, there are many ways they can learn from that. And we see right now not even the role of the government that they do through the Ministry of Environment. We have the central bank here, I think next to your hand, left hand. The central bank, they also have financial literacy day, where they educate people through the way how you do the financing. So they also have a program that they go to the primary school, to the secondary school. So probably their children, when they come back home, they will tell their parents that what is about no plastic day. That's what I learned from my children. So we think that will be surrounding, hearing every day around you. From microfinance perspective, because you talk about micro business, probably you need to access to the microfinance institution or to the specialized bank to access the funding. They probably take some part of this kind of principle to tell you that what business that you should not do, because there will be exclusion list from the financial institution to screen your business, whether your business has any totally impact to the environment and society or not.
Good. Julia.
So maybe because we're running out of time, maybe we could do a quick last word. Last word from round. Excellent.
I think very short, just for young, try to create, try to innovate, spend your valuable time to learn the force to innovate. Trust yourself, believe yourself, and you're gonna make it for your country.
Okay, before I get to last thoughts, I think I also need to hold Vishal accountable for inappropriate jokes. Having said that, yes, in terms of last thoughts, I agree with Charles that UNDP has to look at more ways of working with private sector. I mean, we've been going down this path for the last 2 or 3 years now, and we have come up with some models of partnership which go beyond standard procurement processes for engaging with private sector. So we have developed a few models, they are being tested out, and I think we need to further improve them. And then the second takeaway is that UNDP has some years of experience in terms of technical expertise in greening investment and also greening enterprises. So this is something that we could offer and bring to the table if that kind of expertise is required.
Charles first, because you. That's good.
Main takeaway from this session.
Main takeaway. Yeah. It's more of from all the sessions all together. I think just very quickly and simply. I've been around a while. Cambodia has incredible potential. There's so much, genuineness, richness of the people, the culture here, and a very, as I said earlier, very unique demographic with so much to offer, right? And the opportunities here are for FDI, for SMEs, the opportunities are untapped. And different than, other countries, I think we have the unique ability to work together, right? From farmer to SME to banker to government minister, right? I think only in here in Cambodia you're going to see that type of collaboration happen, right? So let's continue to work to make that happen.
Yeah, I think you hear a lot that if you want to go fast, you can go alone. If you want to go far, we have to go together. So our message is that let's join together to build this sustainable finance for our people, our planet, for our prosperity. We also care about the peace and also the partnership.
For me, I just want to raise a bit about challenges of women entrepreneurs as I was the president of the Cambodia Women Entrepreneur Association. I found that for 61 or 62% as a woman who run a business.
But what is the problem? There's access to finance. Yeah, like we talked about funding, ratings, any funding, etc. I think it's very important to think about women because, as I mentioned earlier, it's more than 50% already that are women who run a business. But what's their challenge? They cannot. I mean, I cannot say that they cannot. It's very difficult for them to access to finance. Any like maybe one can correct me because when we want to access any finance or when we are looking for the bank, so there's many conditions. There is any limit. I mean, like there is nothing that can understand more about women because I think when we start about business, not just really about themselves, about our family and about social society as well. So I just hope because I don't say just really about me. I mean like for all Cambodian women who are struggling with this, and hope that we have more cooperation and more understanding about this. I can say for some bank they give some pockets already like rating or also kind of bank. But for the interest is still high for others. And for me sometimes, because I also need to ask you to finance as well, I look for the bank. And I never think that, okay, I'm a woman who asks for a loan because there is a need, a special offer, so just, okay, treat me as a man too. So I don't care about it, but I say in general, so I just hope the bank try to...
so let's have coffee and talk.
Yeah, I think it's very important because not just about SME, even the micro business as well. If we don't develop them to be like standard one, so how they can get fund and improve their business. If they cannot improve their business, also cannot improve economic as well. So I mean like try, yeah, and do hand together to support women.
I think to me, the journey that Cambodia has gone through has given birth to strong Cambodians. I've seen in my country, and I've seen how much help the government also gives. And every year I see my friend changing startups because there's so much of resources available. But I feel, sometimes not having too much also is also good. Then you build resilient startups, resilient companies. So I feel, it's always nice to have money. Access to finance is always nice. Access to $1 million, $100 million is never enough. But when you build a sound business, and to my experience, fund will always come looking after you. There's enough capital out around you. If they can smell good business, they will come after you. And so that's my.
Well, no, thank you so much. I think that's. I think it's. I'm sorry for the battery to French over here. So I think that we also talk about the middleman, the ecosystem, the intermediaries. And we have in the room some incubators and accelerators program, and they do actually play a critical role to bring basically the market to the next level. Because indeed, when we talk about literacy, SME capacity, those guys, those accelerators, those incubators, or the other investment intermediary play a critical role, and we often actually bypass their role because they're in the shadow or you don't see them. But, you can see Soras May over there. So I think it's very important that we emphasize the role of the intermediary in this exercise.
Okay, so thank you very much to our very respectable panel for this session and everyone for being here and joining us. But it is time for us to wrap up and give the floor back to our MC, Shanta.
Thank you. Maybe we can have one photo.
It's LinkedIn, that's why we have to more. Thank you. So I think that for the other questions that were asked online, I think we're going to take them offline basically, and we try to carry, respond to some of those questions. I know that there was plenty of questions, but we're just losing our time. And you have also the survey. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, it was a very lively and interactive discussion with very distinguished leaders from the business, government, and the development sector coming together. And of course, we do hope like these dialogues continue and we can meet more often like this. And thank you to the speakers and all the participants for your active engagement and interaction. And of course, I would also like to thank Johanna and Lisa. I mean, they have been very integral in developing this concept and also planning the whole event. I would also like to acknowledge and thank our amazing UNDP team. Without your support, the event would not have been possible. So, from UNDP communications team, Mr. Sonruol Im, Ratha Soy, Kim Hyun Tun, Manuth Buth, our special camera crew, and of course Mr. Borafat, Paul Keeley, Yohe Lida, Lang Sok, and Nimno and Ivek. And lastly, to our supportive UNDP management. And we'd also like to thank the Factory Phnom team for helping us organize this wonderful event. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone. And but before we depart, I would also like to request you to complete our brief survey. There is a QR code. Maybe if some of you cannot access this, it will also be projected outside, on the screen outside. Yeah, we'd really appreciate if you could take a few moments to fill this survey, which will really help us understand how we can do it better or how it went. And of course, we do hope that more of, we can meet more often like this, and it'll always be a good feedback for us to keep in mind. So with this, I would like to end the talk show here, but please do join us for our networking cocktail reception outside.
And before that, we also want to thank our host for today, Prashant Pratan, for welcoming everyone and also closing this event. Thank you and have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you.